Good morning, children. Today we're going to talk about transparent vocal compression. Most records do just fine and actually sound better with a more compressed tone because that's the style. Other records, different style, actually benefit from a more virginal or undoctored tone. I know people who would benefit from that too. So today I'm going to take the lead vocal from a jazz track and I'm going to compress it to the level we need to get the tone we want, but try and keep it as natural as possible. Here we go. This is a track I mixed. Singer's name is Sarah Lieb. It's her record. Producer is Matt Pearson. They're both amazing. Please check them out. And it's a perfect example for what we're doing because it's a wide open sounding record. It's supposed to sound undoctored. First thing I'm going to do is play you the first verse so you get a vibe for what we're going for. And then we'll go into the processing. Here we go. Cool. So I just want to point something out, completely unrelated. I love this. They used a bass Rhodes to double the upright. The bass Rhodes is the bottom half of a Rhodes in a little case. And I think it sounds great. So I'll play it for you. It's awesome. And then you add the bass. I think it's really cool, but it has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about today. So let's go back to that. The first thing we should do is listen to the vocal raw, uncompressed. So listen to the bass level, just how loud it is on average, and then to the peaks, those words that stick out. Do they bother you? How much do they bother you? Check it out.
When I want you in my arms and I want you and all your charms whenever I want you, all I have to do is dream, 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 dream.
She's obviously an amazing singer, but still, she's got emotions, not a machine, so she leans in, leans out. There's some louder and quieter parts. Charms, want, dream really stick out. So I propose we try and tame them with a compressor. To keep it fair to all parties involved, we shall use the standard digi compressor, which is actually quite great. How do you think about this? Well, I usually pick a standard ratio, say 2:1, whatever worked for me last time, if I remember. And then I start lowering the threshold to figure out where I want it to happen. Now, in the spirit of keeping things natural, I want to compress as little as possible. For example, those first two phrases, when I want you in my arms, I don't want to touch that. Those are great, right? So that's my bass level. And I'm going to set my threshold so that the compressor only takes care of everything that's louder than my bass level. Fair? Here we go. I don't have a number. I can't guess this stuff. Got to try. I'll try here.
When I want you in my arms and I want you.
So far, so good.
And all your charms whenever I want you.
That's a little light. So maybe if I lower, say here, 21, let's check this out. I'm going straight to the loud parts.
In my arms and I want you.
Pretty good.
And all your charms whenever I want you. All I have to do is dream, 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 dream.
So I like that. It's actually compressing when I want it to compress, but not enough. Some of the peaks are still too loud for me. So then I'm going to augment the ratio, meaning I'm happy as to which part of the signal is compressed, but I want more compression. To do so, I'm going to raise my ratio. Say, let's pick a number, say 10:1. Here we go. Loud parts only.
And all your charms whenever I want you. All I have to do is dream, dream, dream.
I don't like that. I think it's too much. right? So, well, you may like that. That's where mixing branches out. You have your taste, I have my taste. I can't account for that. But I'd say that's too much in the spirit of what we're trying to do. So let's go back down. How's 3 and change?
And all your charms whenever I want you. All I have to do is dream, 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 dream.
That's quite nice because it keeps the vocal right here. It doesn't do this anymore, and it doesn't sound too squished. I like it. So that was threshold and ratio, obviously the most important ones. Let's talk about attack and release. In this particular compressor, I have control over attack and release. Some compressors, like for example an LA2A, no control over attack and release, which is interesting to think about. Maybe people love the LA2A on vocals because the attack and the release are actually magically set just right for vocals. Whereas to think about. In this case, I have choice, which is great. We're going to be able to compare different settings. In this particular case right now, I have 2 milliseconds on the attack and 200 milliseconds on the release. I get a lot of tracks from producers where the attack is all the way down to the minimum possible. Why is that? Well, that makes sense. Instinctively, what they're doing is they're lowering the attack all the way down, which means that the compressor is compressing everything. What does that do to the sound? Well, let's check it out. So this is where we're at right now.
And all your charms whenever I want you. All I have to do is dream.
And this is the same, but with the attack all the way down. Now listen to the transients. Listen to the part of the vocal. Listen to the presence. Where's my vocal now with the short attack?
And all your charms whenever I want you. All I have to do is dream, dream, dream.
Just so you remember, this is how it sounds with an open attack.
And all your charms whenever I want you. All I have to do is dream, 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 dream.
Now, if you listen carefully, it's subtle, but you'll notice that the vocal goes from here with an open attack to here, further back with a closed attack, because we don't have that presence thing because all the transients are being eaten by the compressor. Now, I kind of dug some of what the short attack did for the overall gain control. So what I want to try is to get that back, but still have the presence. To do so, I leave my attack open and I'm going to lower my threshold, which means that the compressor is going to start working earlier in the dynamic range, the same amount with an open attack. And it sounds like this. Check it out.
And all your charms whenever I want you. All I have to do is dream, 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 dream.
I think it's a little too much. Maybe if I lower the ratio a bit. Check this out.
And all your charms whenever I want you. All I have to do is dream, 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 dream.
I think that's a good balance. Now, it's tricky. You have the threshold, so how early into the dynamic range do we start acting? You have the ratio, which is how much of it above the threshold do we nuke the level? And then there's the attack. It's like, how much of the presence do we keep in? And then, to make things further simple, there is the release. Can it be important? Oh, yes. Check it out. Right now, I have a release at 200 milliseconds. We just heard it 4 times. I won't play it again. What happens if I shorten the release? Listen to the steadiness of the vocal. Is it changed? Is it as standard as it was before? Listen to the space in between words or the end of words. Check it out.
And all your charms whenever I want you. All I have to do is dream, 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 dream.
So now it's starting to dance again. It's starting to, on the dream, words kind of peek through, and it's not as centered and solid and kind of like corseted, if you will, in place. I'll play that again, and then right away, I'll play a longer release. Short release first.
And all your charms whenever I want you. All I have to do is dream, 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 dream. And all your charms whenever I want you. All I have to do is dream, 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 dream.
Isn't it crazy to think that by changing that one setting, which by the way is the setting that most people just completely overlook all the time, the whole sound of the whole vocal is completely changed? There are ways to think about these things. I'm trying to walk through them, and we do more in the dedicated compression videos, but every setting has a certain musical impact on the tone. And being able to think about it in musical terms helps a lot, rather than looking at numbers. This is the way I think about things when I compress a vocal. Do I have the presence? If I lack presence, I push the attack open. Do I have the steadiness? If I want more steadiness, maybe I'll open the release a little bit so it's a little more together, kept together. Are my quiet phrases left alone or are they squished? Threshold. Are my loud phrases taken care of enough or not? Ratio. And you think of it that way, it's not so daunting to think that every single parameter has an effect on the other parameters. It becomes more natural and more instinctive way to set up the system. Now, I'd like to listen to these settings within the song because ultimately that's what it's about. But before we listen to the vocal within the track, I'm going to apply some makeup gain on the compression. Why is that? Well, if all you're doing is just tame a couple peaks a little bit and you're happy with where your bass track is in the song, you don't need makeup gain really. You're just taming some peaks, right? Your bass level is cool, you're taming the peaks. In this particular case, I'm kind of squashing the vocal quite a bit, even though you don't hear it much. I'm squashing it. And so I'm probably going to have to give some makeup gain so that it's loud enough on the verses and stays just where I need it to be on the peaks. And I saw on the gain reduction meter that I lost about 6 to 8 dBs of gain on the peaks. So I'm going to compensate by about 6 dBs and see how that goes. Here's the song.
When I want you in my arms and I want you in all your charms whenever I want you, all I have to do is dream, 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 dream.
So that's kind of perfect. It sounds kind of like a record. There's still one thing that bothers me a little bit. If you notice here, after this loud phrase, there's a very quiet phrase. Check it out.
In all your charms whenever I want you, all I have to do is dream.
So all I have to do is getting lost. Here there's two possibilities. I can be lazy, and I could take the threshold down so that the peaks are reduced further so that I can bring the whole track up, and then this will no longer be quiet. That's the road most traveled, I find. Although I am very lazy, I tend to not do that because what that's going to do is going to squish the whole vocal just because of one quiet phrase. I don't like that. So in this case, I would just compensate by using automation. Take just this one phrase and raise it a couple dBs and see how it sounds.
In all your charms whenever I want you, all I have to do is dream.
You actually could stand another 0.5. Yes, you can hear 0.5 dBs. Okay, 0.8.
In all your charms whenever I want you, all I have to do is dream.
So that works. It is perfectly fine and sometimes highly regarded to use a combination of compression and automation to set your vocal levels. It also works not only for quiet parts, but also for loud parts. Say, for example, you have a peak that actually goes through your compressor settings. You have the right settings for the average thing, but there's one annoying peak. You could compress more, but then the whole track gets affected. You could use a two-step compression system, which we'll discuss in a different video, or you could just go in and automate that peak. It takes more time, but it's more natural sounding. Since that's what we're trying to do, that may be the way to go. In this case, I'm happy with the way the whole verse sounds, especially with that little quiet part raised. So that's one way to think about compression in the context of a more natural sounding vocal. Again, there's not one way to compress vocals. There's how do you want it to sound and how do you get to that spot. And there's a variety of settings. This is one of them. Et voilà.